It was like I was walking home in the fog, not noticing anyone around me. I was not bothered by the way the people I met on the way darted aside. It was understandable. I guess it's not very pleasant to meet death on a dark street. Hello! Do you like Halloween? So, your night before All Saints' Day obviously went better than mine. My name is Melanie, and I'm going to tell you how a costume party turned into a nightmare for me. The whole school was looking forward to that Halloween party. The preparations had been in full swing for several weeks. Everyone was picking their looks and getting their costumes ready. Mel, this is going to be the party of the year, my friend Sharon stated. But she was always the party girl, and every party was her party of the year, which must not be missed. I never liked noisy gatherings. I planned to devote my time to my studies. Classes and preparation for them always took up most of my day. And during my free time, or what was left of it, I was with my boyfriend Brian. Sometimes I even managed to find an hour or two for girls' get-togethers. Even if I suddenly got bitten by Sharon and passed her addiction onto me, and I suddenly had the urge to hang out in a weird costume, there would be no time to properly prepare. It was for the best. That particular Halloween night, I was planning on doing a report for my history class. If you're not going, there's nothing for me to do, Brian said. What nonsense! You don't have to stay home all night. You have to go out and have fun. My boyfriend denied it for a while. But a week before the party, he still began to think about the theme of his costume. I was all for it. And then came the unfortunate day. As planned, at night, I wished Brian a good rest. And I wished Sharon not to throw herself at all the handsome guys. I sat down at the computer myself because I had long and hard work ahead of me with an enormous amount of material. An hour and a half passed. Every now and then, I was distracted by the phone notifications. Here's Brian taking selfies with his best friend dressed as a werewolf. Here's Sharon sneakily taking a picture of the school beauty queen deciding to be a heroine from Stephen King's Carrie. It was a surprise to me that she even knew what books were. Another half an hour, my older sister Monica knocked on my door. Studying again? My sister sat down on the edge of the bed. What about the party? I have 2 reports to turn in on Monday. So today, let them have fun without me. Today and last month and 2 months ago, my sister shook her head and then walked over the computer and turned off the monitor. Hey, I just started. I reached out my hand to turn the screen back on, but Monica grabbed my wrist. Finish it tomorrow. Mel, you're 16 years old and you're acting like an elderly professor. Youth is one-time thing and you spend it with books and computers. How did you ever get a boyfriend? To be honest, I ask myself that question a lot. Brian was a handsome athlete and why he paid attention to me in the first place was a mystery. And I did not dare to ask him about it. Go to the party, my sister said in a reconcilable tone. But I don't even have a costume. I'll give you the costume I sewed the year before for cosplay. It should fit. There was no point in resisting any further. I knew that once Monica had made up her mind, she couldn't be persuaded. And why not surprise Brian and Sharon and have some fun together for that matter? An hour later, I was getting out of my sister's car, trying my best not to get tangled up in the hem of my long outfit. Monica had chosen the death costume for her cosplay a couple of years ago. It was a strange choice, but it had its good points. For example, a mask in the form of a skull that covers the face and allows you to save a lot of time on makeup. I felt out of place, but in the back of my mind, I was glad I hadn't dragged my Catwoman costume to the party. It would have been more embarrassing. The party was at the coolest club in town. It could easily hold a few hundred teenagers. I entered the hall and looked around. The bright, shiny, colorful costumes, the loud music, and the strobe lights made me dizzy. There was plenty of room on the big dance floor, but the bar was closed. Alcoholic beverages were strictly forbidden at this party. I went to look for familiar faces, but 10 minutes later, I realized that it wasn't that easy. Even though I knew what outfits Brian and Sharon were wearing, finding them in that crowd was going to be a real challenge. Still, I'd have to text my young man and spoil the surprise a bit. I headed over to the easy chairs in the corner where the guys were lounging, tired from dancing. Luckily, there was room for me and I sat down next to a couple, turning my back to them not to disturb them, and pulled out my phone. "We must confess to her," said the girl behind me, trying to shut down the music. "How much can you hide?" "I don't think it's time yet," the guy replied. I tried not to listen to their conversation, but it was hard. "You've been saying that for a month now. When is the right time? Your insecurity is making everyone suffer. Me, you, Melanie." I froze with the phone in my hands. At that second, I recognized the voices. It was Sharon and Brian. My first impulse was to turn around and give myself away, but curiosity got the better of me. I turned into one big ear and pretended to rummage through the phone. "I don't think Mel will like what we did," Brian said. "We did? What could my boyfriend and my best friend have done together, who, in fact, never really talked to each other that much? Did they pretend they didn't want to know each other in front of me? But behind my back they were talking and spending time together? It couldn't be. I'm surprised she hasn't burned us yet." "Oh please, Brian, Melanie can see anything but books and a computer. Even if we started kissing while we're in the same room with her, she wouldn't tear herself away from another lecture on YouTube." My eyes went black. Maybe, of course, it was the stupid mask in the stuffy room that made me lack oxygen, but what I heard was really shocking. It sounded like Brian was dating Sharon and he was afraid to tell me. Of course, it was my own fault. I did spend too much time studying. But that's not a decent reason to do me like this. I stood up with determination and was about to turn to those two traitors and tell them what I thought of them when I heard Sharon's words. "We should have done it the right way. I hope no one remembered our faces or we'd be in serious trouble." "What kind of trouble, Shar?" "It's stealing." "It's not stealing, it's just a little trick." "We're stealing someone else's stuff. Brian, let's get rid of it already. Give it to Melanie. I don't want to see it." What a twist. Yes, it would be better if they met behind my back. As if in a fog, I got to the exit from the club. The fresh air made me feel a little better and I was finally able to collect my thoughts. My boyfriend Brian and my friend Sharon had done something really bad, and that was stealing something that belonged to someone else. Now they're very ashamed, but they can't admit it. The guilt and fear of being caught tormented them so much that they decided to get rid of the stolen item by planting it on me. Well, that's quite a situation. I didn't notice how I got home. "You're home early," Monica said, surprised to see me on the doorstep. I just shrugged it off and went to my room. What had they stolen? Robbed the jewelry store? Robbed the hardware store on the corner? Maybe they'd stolen a suitcase full of money. I couldn't believe that Sharon, the sissy and fashionista, and Brian, a baseball fan, could commit a crime. They didn't seem like people capable of crime. I don't seem to know people at all. But that's not what's important right now. What do I do in this situation? Should I pretend I hadn't heard and wait to be set up? Or should I report it to the police? But then Brian and Sharon would be arrested and sent to jail, and they are, after all, close people to me. Close people who broke the law and decided to pin the blame on me. How about letting my friends know that I know everything? As if arguing with an angel on one shoulder and the devil on another, I could not decide. I went back downstairs in the same death costume and sat across from Monica, who was finishing her tea. "Did you get used to the role?" My sister smiled. "I'm not ready yet. Go away." "Monica, how would you act in a difficult situation? By the law or by the call of your heart?" "You scared someone to death and now you're afraid to admit it? Well, let's go hide the body." "I'm serious." Apparently, I looked so upset that my sister stopped sneering and thought about it. You always have to do what the law says, even when it comes to the people closest to you. "What on earth have you done, Melanie?" Her sister frowned, and she looked as if she was no longer amused. "I didn't do anything. I just read the book and thought about the plot." This answer was fine with Monica. My sister was right. We had to follow the law, and if Brian and Sharon had broken it, I'd have to turn them into the police. But first, I have to talk to them and make sure I got it right. I dialed Brian's number and he answered almost immediately. Judging by the noise of the street in the background, he was on his way returning from the party. I'm going home. It was boring without you. And it would have been even more boring if I'd been put in jail for your crime, I thought. Out loud, I asked my boyfriend to come over to my house. And for reassurance, I added, something very scary has happened. I wrote the same thing to Sharon. My friend, though she was still having fun, immediately asked one of the older students to give her a lift to my house. The three of us were about to be confronted. They were surprised to see each other. Even more surprised they have must been with my outfit. There was silence in my living room for a few minutes. It was broken by Monica, who was going down the stairs. Death, a vampire, and a girl of easy virtue. Interesting party you have here. I'm Siri from The Witcher, outraged my friend. Brian laughed, but soon he wasn't laughing anymore. I know you've committed a crime. My voice trembled, though I tried to sound confident. I was at the party tonight and I overheard you talking. Oh shit. The guy slammed his fist on his knee. Oh well, that's good, Sharon interjected. And it's good that you know nothing has to be hidden anymore. What did you steal? Stole? We didn't steal anything. Brian was indignant. Yes, we did. Sharon almost cried. Your idiot boyfriend decided to give you a Christmas present, picked out a dress and dragged me to try it on. We're the same size. When we arrived, it turned out there was only one small size left in the whole store and it was put aside by some man in front of us. He said his wife was going to pick it up in 10 minutes. So Brian decided that I should introduce myself as the man's wife, so we did. We walked over in 10 minutes, picked up the last dress, paid for it, and got the hell out of there. I couldn't believe my ears. This was the crime of the century I was going to send my friends to jail for? I never thought Sharon would be so conscientious. I had to confess that I almost called the police. It was very embarrassing. But I'm glad I still decided to figure it all out and talk to them first, and it ended safely. That's how weird Halloween was for me and my friends. Have you found yourself in a similar situation? Have you ever quarreled with your friends because you assumed they were guilty but did not find out everything to the end? Share your opinion in the comments and don't forget to like this story.